And we are live. Welcome everybody to Lubbock Compact Live for Wednesday, August the 9th. I am your host, Adam Hernandez, here with my co-host, Josh Schenkels. And we've got two special guests, friends of the show, Adam Pirtle with Legal Aid of Northwest Texas and Dora Cortez with the North and East Lubbock Coalition. Today, we are discussing a recently filed civil rights complaint against the city for discriminatory zoning practices. A lot of folks out there may have seen the news articles come out about this. I know a lot of people had commentary. And so go ahead and invite your friends now to the show. Get them in here. Let's have the discussion. Let's talk about it, because the reason why I like to have the information straight from the folks who are doing it is so that we can kind of get rid of any kind of misconceptions or misinformation about what exactly is going on here. I just want to kick out some of the really kind of easy ones really quick so that we can move on to a more serious discussion. This has nothing to do with just regular old West Texas wind and dust. Everybody knows we live in Lubbock and that it's just dusty by default. What we're talking about today has absolutely nothing to do with that. And so let's just go ahead and kick that one off the table and let's get into a very serious discussion. And we'll have some fun moments too here in a minute. But just get all your questions answered or just find out some really good information that could be helpful to lots of communities. And so Dora and Adam, thank y'all for being with us today. And Josh, I'll let you kick it off.
Yeah, no, I mean, Dora, Adam, you guys are good friends. We all know each other really well. But for anybody in our audience that hasn't met you, isn't familiar with you, you know, let's just start with like a quick introduction. And Dora, maybe you'll tell us about the North and East Lubbock Coalition. And Adam, when you introduce, maybe you'll reintroduce our audience to Legal Aid of Northwest Texas. Dora, why don't we start with you?
Okay, thank you for having me this afternoon. A little bit about myself. Again, my name is Dora Cortez. I live in the Guadalupe neighborhood. I've lived in this neighborhood just practically all of my life. I've raised my two sons in the Jackson area. And they went to school at Jackson and at Guadalupe. What else can I say? I've lived here all of my life, and I've had to put up with all this industry around us, and it's not getting any better. It's getting worse because it's expanding, it's growing. You've got new companies coming in. So that is what North and East Lubbock Coalition is about. We are trying to bring this to the forefront, you know, get people involved that live in these neighborhoods where this industrial factories are located. They're right outside our back doors. So hopefully with this complaint that we filed, we will be able to call more attention to, you know, the areas where we live, and people can come by and see these factories for themselves.
Yeah. Wait, before you get in there, Adam, what else can we say about Dora? There is no human in the city of Lubbock who is more familiar, who has worked harder on this issue and has stood up for our community on this specific thing more than Ms. Dora Cortez. That's what needs to definitely be set up front in the introduction part.
Also former
Adam.
President of the Guadalupe Neighborhood Association. So
Yes,
of course.
thank you. Yes.
You're
Okay,
here.
Now, Adam, go ahead.
Like following the Rolling Stones. I am Adam Pirtle. I am a staff attorney with Legal Aid of Northwest Texas. Josh and Adam, I really appreciate you having us on today. This is fun. Legal Aid of Northwest Texas, we serve all the way to Dallas, out here up to Amarillo and the rest of the Panhandle down to Midland, Odessa. We are a nonprofit law firm for folks that can't afford legal assistance. And so we have all sorts of offices around. I work in the Lubbock office for a special division called the Community Revitalization Project. And I've been in Lubbock for living here for about 2.5 years now, and been traveling to Lubbock since 2017, working on this issue for a long time.
Yeah. Well, you know, I had to ask you about if you had come on the show, because we have a certain honorarium for people who've been on the show more than once. Friends of the show, you know, welcome back. Thank you for being here. let's get right into this complaint. Okay, so maybe Adam, you want to take this question off the top, and then Dora, you can jump in here and add some context, but give us the kind of 30,000 foot overview. You know, we've read this document. It's an excellent encapsulation of the historical context of everything that is kind of around this issue, and really points at you know, where the tension points are, and so it's a pretty big document, but maybe you could kind of give us a sort of executive summary of it so that our audience kind of understands what the complaint is, where it's aimed at, why it is, those kinds of things.
Sure thing. Well, it's a complaint brought under Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And that's important because what Title VI says is that if the federal government gives out money to a state or a city, when that state or city, here in this case the city of Lubbock, takes that money, any money any program or activity that money comes into contact with, any entity like the city council that's distributing money, that distributes out that federal money, they can't have programs, laws, activities on the books that are discriminatory. And so it's the federal government's, it's kind of like a contract, right? So if I'm the city, I'm promising to the feds, hey, all of my laws are good. We're not discriminating against people with this money because, you know, as taxpayers, we don't want our taxpayer money funding discriminatory programs, right? That's not what we want. So that's what this is under. City council took, you know, they take money from HUD every year. On a 5-year grant cycle. They also took money recently during COVID from the Department of Treasury, 56 million or thereabout in American Rescue Plan funds. And so when they took those American Rescue Plan funds, they made that promise that I was talking about. City council distributed that money to all sorts of different programs. City council also makes all of the zoning decisions. So they decide where industrial zoning goes, they decide where residential zoning goes. And they recently passed, as we all know, the Unified Development Code, which re-upped Lubbock zoning. And with that, they passed a new zoning map, which pretty much cements the same discriminatory zoning patterns that have been going on since kind of the start of the city. And so that's what the complaint's basically about. And we are the complaint to the Department of Treasury, which gave out the American Rescue Plan funds, to HUD, which gives out all sorts of other grants. And we've also asked the Department of Justice to take a look at this because they're in charge of kind of coordinating these investigation activities for other agencies in the federal government. And so the complaint, in order to prove a Title VI complaint, you have to show that there is either intentional discrimination, or if you're making a complaint to the federal government, you can also show that there's a disparate impact discrimination. So intentional, you have to go through the history. You have to show that there's a history of discrimination. You have to prove that there is actually statistical evidence showing that there's a disparate impact, which there very clearly is. All you have to do is look at the zoning map to figure that out. You have to talk about the legislative history and kind of what happened, what the policymakers did or didn't do in the lead up to the passage of the law that you're complaining about. And so in all those 59 pages, it's quite a hefty document. We go through the history, the statistics, what the harms are, and you know, kind of the nitty gritty of the politics and all that, what happened during the lead up to all this, starting with, you know, we start at the 2040 plan. I know that Dora Cortez has been fighting these kinds of issues for 30, 40 years, and she can talk about that later, I'm sure. But we kind of kicked this off talking about the 2040 plan and how folks from East and North Lubbock came out and tried to get the city to deal with this then. Talk about the lead up to the UDC, how folks came out during the public process there, both at planning and zoning meetings and city hall. And then, you know, I mean, y'all have been deep in the heart of this too. So you could probably speak to all of those council meetings that folks have attended, all those times that folks have reached out to council members, to planning and zoning members to try and get a solution to this, and we still haven't solved it. So hope I summed it up for you, and we can dig
No.
in other places if you want to.
No, that's
No,
a really good summary. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And I would just say, you know, from my perspective, I grew up in East Lubbock. Dora's from North Lubbock. So I know from my perspective, I've heard and seen at times various groups over my entire life. I'm now 42 years old, advocating around this issue. But Dora, could you talk a little bit about, because you've been around, as Adam said, fighting this fight for a long time. Can you talk a little bit about your perspective of what all have you been involved in? What all have you seen as far as advocacy all these years, and how long has it been from your perspective?
Well, it's, as Adam mentioned, it's been about 30 years, and I was going back, trying to remember, and I'm going like, yes, it has been about that time. My boys were still young, and the first time that I got involved was with, and I don't know whether I have these in the right order, but when Cavazos was being built, the Wilbert funeral services was across the street, and at that time they had gone before the city, and so Mary Marina and myself went to before the city council and told them that we didn't want them across the street from the school. And we had the second meeting, and at the second meeting, the manager from the Wilbert brought some of the workers, which were Hispanic. And that really frustrated me, because you have Hispanics that live in the neighborhood that don't want this facility there. And then you have Hispanics that work in the company. And so he pitted, Hispanic against Hispanic, which, it really frustrated and irritated me that he did that. But I mean, it happens. But that's when I first got involved. And then you had Billy Sims, who owned an RV company. He's now, I think, on the other side of the loop, but at the time he also wanted to build, I think he wanted to build like a flea market right there on Avenue U and Clovis. And so we got involved with that as well. And of course that did not pass. So we were happy about that. Even though years later we went ahead and now we have a flea market down the street. But what I have seen from growing up here is that the companies have expanded, and then you have new companies coming in, and just we're getting a flood of companies. If you come down here, you drive down Erskine, you drive down North Avenue P to the other side of Erskine, all of, you see all of these companies, and you've got the railroad tracks that facilitate the Purina company. You've got Elitic brick company. You've got all these companies that the railroad services, and so that doesn't help. I've several times when I've been down on Milwaukee and 53rd, I have yet to see a train down there in that area where you do have tracks on Milwaukee and around 43rd, where you have that the home for the elderly, the ranching. I can't even remember the name of the facility, but I have yet to see a train on those tracks.
Right.
We see trains here all the time. And another thing that frustrates me, and we did talk to the school board about this, is the situation with the new school, Kimona Harris. It's located on Cesar Chavez. You've got railroad tracks on Clovis and Avenue U. You've got railroad tracks on Cesar Chavez right there, North Q Drive. You've got railroad tracks over here on Avenue P. So I was asking the superintendent, what about when we have an emergency, if we ever have an emergency at the school, how are we going to get those service vehicles to respond in a timely fashion? And she said, oh no, we've talked to the railroad company and there's not ever going to be a problem. Well, I saw a problem one day. Now I can't drive as fast as I wanted to get to all the locations and take pictures, but Clovis and Avenue U was blocked. Avenue P was blocked, and Erskine was blocked, and there was a train that had to stop on North Q Drive. So how long is it going to take for a service, an emergency vehicle to get to the school if they have to reach one of these kiddos? Because those railroad tracks run all the way from North University all the way west. They're coming down. So if they block Avenue University, and then they block Clovis, and then they block P, and then you've got another train, which was what happened. There was another train coming from Erskine, and they had to stop and wait to allow the train to pass. So then he has blocked Erskine and blocked Cesar Chavez. So now there is no access to the school unless you get a helicopter.
Yeah, I think that's that's a great observation to say here, is that, you know, in relation to this like historical context and how much advocacy's gone on here, what we have is an intentionally created problem, a manufactured problem. This problem was manufactured and dropped on top of our minority communities out of malice. But then what happens is the thing takes on a life of its own, and other decisions get made also because of malice, and still other decisions get made because of convenience, and still other decisions get made because of necessity or access to transportation or something like that. And the whole thing starts to creep and spiral out of control, and no hands are on the drivers. No plans are made. There's no hands on the driving wheel. And so we move forward and forward through time, where subsequent decisions are made at the city leadership level, from businesses making whatever their choices are. And these things compound over time. And so here we are now, dealing with the compounded mess that it's hard to parse out, like which parts are even which parts anymore. But we know it all needs a solution, and people are daunted by wanting to take it on because it has such complexity, and we got a bunch of part-timers running the town, and they have proven themselves kind of deaf to advocacy efforts over years and years and years. I mean, just what I can remember in being engaged in this, there was like, you know, a complaint like 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. I think probably Adam, and Dora, you were both involved in that. And then all of this work over the whole course of the UDC development and the comprehensive plan development, and the mapping development, just like tons and tons and tons and tons of statements and meetings and whatnot. And, you know, and now this. And so the whole thing is just a big old mess, but we've had so many opportunities to get in there and start to untangle this in some meaningful way. You know, and that's all just kind of been shuffled under the rug, or you know, spoken to and then no action, or, you know, any number of things, or just no action at all, not spoken to, ignored entirely. And so that gets us to this point, the present point of the filing of this complaint, and some other work that has been done on that. And so I just highlight that to kind of stress, like, how long this advocacy effort has been going on, how many different steps of remedy have been passed over. And so here we are again, like attempting to seek that kind of remedy. Have I encapsulated this well?
Yeah, the only thing I'll add, so that folks can get the full picture, as Adam alluded to earlier, this has been going on literally since the city was created. And you look at the 1923 ordinance that dictated where Black and brown residents could live. It was illegal for Black and brown residents to live outside of those 2 prescribed areas. Well, that's citing that the people themselves were pollutants to the environment, that people of color were pollutants to the environment. That's what the law said here in Lubbock, Texas. So if you don't believe me, you can go on the city website, and there's an archive section there, and you can go and find whatever ordinance you want that ever existed. It's there. And so go look for that 1923 ordinance if you think that I'm lying. The thing that kind of set us up for all of this in a policy perspective way back when as well was the land use plan of 1940, which put the industrial zoning in those neighborhoods, citing the reason you don't put them in good neighborhoods. And so if you're already categorizing certain people in a certain area as pollutants, well, naturally in your mind, you're going to put the polluting things next to the pollutants, right?
Right.
It made sense to them in some universe, but that was their reasoning. It was there in black and white. Again, you can go look these things up. And so, Adam, you talked about the precedent, the patterns and things of this nature that the city has either done or not done. So all of that has kind of been laid out. We've kind of illustrated that to people. So the complaint's been made now. So what are next steps? What can we kind of look for as the next steps of the process?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. I mean, like kind of Josh alluded to, there have been a lot of opportunities to fix this problem, and we're hoping that the complaint will kind of put a fire under some people to start knuckling down and trying to fix this problem. When the city decides that it wants to work with signs, or it wants to figure out what to do with downtown, or it wants to turn a railroad into Marcia Sharp, which is a wonderful freeway, or do a Canyon Lake system after a tornado. This city's done tremendous things. And when people put their minds to it and we all come together, we can accomplish big, complicated problems. In a way, this is a complicated problem, but in another way, it's not. I mean, there's a lot of bad stuff next to neighborhoods. And I don't think that if we're truly going to love our neighbors, we can't accept that in Lubbock, Texas, and so the next step is, for at least for the complaint is, we're relying on the federal government to start investigating. It's in their hands a little bit to start looking at this and determine if they need to pursue a legal remedy. That could be threatening to withdraw funds. It could be getting the city to come to the table and make a voluntary compliance agreement where they will agree to take measures to end the discrimination. It's my thought that, our thought that it'd be better that money stay here. It's a lot better that money stay here. So instead of pay back the federal government, why not use that money to start removing some of these facilities that have been cited by TCEQ for polluting, for not minding the law? Why not start rezoning vacant land that is zoned industrial next to neighborhoods so that no new industry can come next to neighborhoods? Cleaning up facilities that are just festering. There are a lot of just old industrial sites that aren't going to be used. I'm thinking, one that really sticks out to me is that big cotton oil mill over at 19th and A that's just sitting there, but it's industrial. So theoretically, some industry could come in and decide to put in an industry right in the middle of East Lubbock and Chapman Hill. But so we can wait on the federal government or the city. There are a lot of opportunities that, folks who have good hearts could start working on this right now. And, I think Dora Cortez, Natalie Miller, other people in the North and East Lubbock Coalition, other people who aren't in the coalition but care about this issue. I mean, we could start having these conversations, start coming up with real meaningful changes, start rezoning, start removing these facilities. You don't have to wait for the feds. There's no rule that says you have to do that. And so the UDC, I know that the city is having a council and planning and zoning are having a joint meeting on the 30th, I think 2:00. And so that's going to be an opportunity for folks to express, come out and express what they want with this UDC before it becomes effective in October. I don't think we need to wait on the complaint. I mean, certainly that might end up being what will happen because of, I think, reluctance on behalf of folks who make these decisions to start untangling this issue unless they have to, because that's kind of been the track record. But I'm hopeful that I hope I'm proven wrong. I honestly hope I'm proven wrong.
Have you gotten any response? This is a question from Kim in the audience. Have you got any response from the city about the complaint at all?
No.
Unfortunately, not uncommon.
That tracks. Okay, I told you all about this in advance. I think we all deserve this little moment of venting. I want to go round robin and express some of the bones we have to pick and complaints we have about different advocacy areas, different weird interactions we've had over this, just as a kind of overview of how frustrating this has all been. I'll start. My first bone that I got to pick is, do y'all remember when at that coffee with the mayor, it was Natalie or somebody giving Dan Pope like a hard time about this issue? And he was like, you want this issue solved? Go get me the signatures required for an ordinance. And this guy knew, because we had just went down that path, we had just looked at this. This guy knew good and well, post the 2016 election, that he was basically asking everybody in that room, go get me 12,000 signatures and I'll think about it. And I was just like, this guy has a lot of nerve. These folks have so much nerve to have power. They are the people with power. They were the people that were given power to resolve things. And then to turn around and be like, I'm helpless unless you go get me some more stuff. Why don't you run around and get 10,000 signatures? And like, getting 10,000 signatures on anything is a bonkers number of signatures. That's a lot of nerve. Dora, you want to go next?
How many gripes am I entitled to? Because first of all, I want to personal opinion. Josh, you mentioned something earlier about the people that serve on the council are only there, for so many years, and then you get another council. But in my personal opinion, the people that we vote for are not the people that are making the decisions, as far as I'm concerned. These people rely on city staff for input. And I think that a lot of times I've noticed that, and of course I'm not at the at their closed meetings, but what I've seen from the city is obvious to me. I don't know if it's obvious to other people, but the people that we elect to serve in these offices are not the people that are making the decisions most of the time. The city staff comes in and tells them this and this and this is the way this is, and or this is the way this works, or whatever, and they go with it instead of doing the research. That was my problem with as you well know, with the planning and zoning, when they said that a year is too short a time for them to consider. Wait a minute, we haven't been discussing this for a year. Maybe that individual with the planning and zoning came on board a year ago, but her or his thing was to research, to do the research and to know what is going on before they make those kind of comments. And that was very irritating to me. First of all, because the mayor called me out on it and I was not able to respond because I was not prepared, and I just let him have it. He took my time and he didn't give it back to me,
Yep.
But yet you had the builders, the developers, the contractors. Oh, whatever time you need, guys, whatever time you need, go ahead, just lay it out for us. But these companies that we have that surround our community, we talk about safety. We have yet to be able to get the city, and this is one of the things that we talk, not just to this council, but back in 2020 when COVID was strong and we had a meeting with Dan Pope on Zoom, we told him about, the city needed to do something to be able to let the community know as far as health issues. My mom passed away because of COPD. I have two granddaughters, one with asthma, one with allergies. We don't know whether these factories are contributing to any of that. But why can't something as simple as putting some money aside and saying, we are going to go ahead and put monitors. No. Now, dealing with non-conforming uses, okay? Sheila Patterson, if we're talking about good faith, one of the things that she said is, you already voted on it, and I'm paraphrasing, you already voted on it. You're saying that in October we can come back and bring this issue and change it or something? The abandonment clause. Why can you not give us 6 months? Why does it have to be a year? Why does a building have to be abandoned for 1 year before you will, call it abandoned, and then go ahead and just, do the land use and change it to commercial? Why do you have to wait a year? That is just so frustrating when you go before the council and you're giving them all of this information. I mean, other cities, I gave them a list. I gave the committee a list of the cities in Texas. And it's like, they're not listening to you. They're not listening to you.
And you're making me mad, Dora. So I'm gonna get my gripe now. You provided them with all that information about amortization, about what other cities were doing across the state. Dallas probably being one of the leaders, but San Angelo, Odessa, Midland had amortization clauses on the books. Now that's all been complicated by what the legislature has done this last session.
Correct.
But there was so much hesitancy from Dan Pope and from others to we're picking on Mayor Pope, but there were other people, that were just as scared of this issue. But the pivotal case in the state of Texas for amortization is a Lubbock case. It's Lubbock Poster versus the city of Lubbock. And that was all about amortizing signs in the 70s along 19th. And you saw the sign advocates come out and they showed this picture of 19th in the 70s with all these billboards, and you couldn't even see Lubbock High. And the city of Lubbock amortized all of those billboards and got rid of them. And the Supreme Court said, that's fine. All of the courts, the appeals court up in Amarillo said that Lubbock had every right to do amortization under its police power. But by God, when we had to start doing it for industries that were actually potentially impacting people's health, they smell bad, there's dust, there's, trucks going in and out, all sorts of problems. A sign is not pretty to look at, but it's not the same kind of nuisance,
No.
And so we will use this tool for signs, but we will not use it when it comes to Black and brown neighborhoods, and that story gets played out in so many different ways, again and again throughout this whole, ordeal. So that's
I guess my gripe is, it's kind of been alluded to here, and Dora, you make a good point about currently who makes a lot of the decisions, and currently and historically it has been city staff many times. But what I've reminded people about on the show that really keeps me frustrated about this issue is a couple of things. And Adam, you alluded to this. The first thing is that the person in the leadership position has to have both the vision and the determination to pull something off. And what we've seen in leadership, unfortunately, is that, I'm not going to say all of them, but at least the perception that has been given to the wider public about many of our leadership is that they're not there to be servant leaders. They're there for a stepping stool to something else, for the promotion of it all, for the title, for the prestige, what have you. And that's problematic in and of itself for other reasons, but it's also problematic here because if you're in it for that, you're in it for the complete wrong reason. If you're in it for the community, as I feel that our leaders should be, especially at the local level, then you should be able to have some sort of vision based on what your community is telling you, and then take the initiative as the leader to start that process, because it goes into the second part that I want to let everybody know again. The city council has 3 employees. City of Lubbock itself has a bunch of employees, lots of employees, but the city council has 3 employees: the city manager, city attorney, and city secretary. Those are their employees. And in any business or organization, if you have a hierarchy where somebody is the leader and somebody else answers to them, the person who answers to them does not necessarily have to like what the leader is asking them to do. They just need to do it, because that's the hierarchy of the situation. What we've seen with our leadership time and again is that they oftentimes forget that. And they let the city manager or city staff tell them what it's going to be. And am I saying they don't know what they're talking about? Absolutely not. I've mentioned it many times on this show. We have some of the best people working in the city of Lubbock, but there's also other ways to do things. And it wouldn't be such a problem if they weren't being brought the alternative information or the additional information. And so just another thing to put out there for folks so that you fully understand. Not only Dora and Adam and others that have worked on this for so long, Lubbock Compact ourselves, and I can talk about this intimately because it's coming directly from me. I'm the communications chair for this organization. We have put so much information that, by the way, we sacrifice our lives to research for, and we're not the elected officials, but we do it. And because that's what we sign up for, right? And so we've done that. We've done that legwork. Us and others, many others, have done that legwork. There was also, as a result of a lot of our advocacy, there was a study done by Tech in conjunction with Sam Houston. Was it Sam Houston University? Sam Houston State University, that shows there's higher instances of breathing related illnesses like asthma and things of this nature in the northeast quadrant of Lubbock particularly, and that's where these facilities are located at. And so all of this has been provided to the council. All of this has played out. We, as Adam said, they've been given a master class on what amortization is, how it can be used, examples, precedent, the whole 9 yards. And they simply refuse to do it. And that's my biggest beef, will always be in any situation, leaders who cannot take the role of a leader. Sometimes you have to make a tough decision. And some of your people that you may have known for decades of your life, and maybe they gave you a campaign contribution, and maybe they shook your hand all the time, or they like your wife's pie, or whatever the case may be. You're going to have to, as a leader of an entire city, make decisions that are going to make some people mad and some people upset. But you have to look within yourself, in your heart, at your morality and your humanity to see, is the request from this person reasonable from a moral and humane aspect? Not because this is my friend or it may make the city some money or this, that, and the third. From a humane aspect, does that make sense what they're asking me to do versus what the community is asking me to do? And time and again, I will say that it has not been on this issue. And until you live in or come from one of those neighborhoods and you have to deal with this, none of us who come from those areas are interested in your takes on why people live there, what they should do. They should stop crying, all of those things. We're not interested, because you wouldn't be interested if there was a concrete batch plant over on West End or Lake Ridge. It would not be tolerated. It would simply not be tolerated. And you would have those communities come out en masse, and you would have the council roll over instantly. All we're asking is the same consideration that you would want for your family and your community, because we are humans just like you're humans. And this is why we're so passionate about that. That's my biggest beef, is the leaders who will not be leaders and take the initiative and do what they need to do. So
I think you guys have said some really important things here. Feel free to kick in anything else, Adam, Dora, that we may have missed, any other context. But my question now is, how can the broader community support this work? Like, what are some ways that they can tap in either to your effort, or what other efforts should they be looking at? Like, how can people support you guys in this?
Well, let me tell you 2 stories. The first story is, and I think Adam Pirtle was at that council meeting when I went. I don't know if the rest of you were there. You might have been there. When residents from Lake Ridge went before the city council, and it had to do with a shed that was on the golf course. A shed that was on the golf course. They brought pictures. All I could see was green grass, beautiful green grass. And I'm thinking, this is what you are complaining about? And so after they got through with their presentation, the mayor was just falling over with words of praise, letting them know how much he appreciated them coming. And then they got up and left, and they filled up at least half of the council seats. Then we had the other incident where you had the student housing, where the planning and zoning, Tech Terrace sided with the developer or the builder, and then the residents built City Hall, came before the council, made their presentation, made their pitch, and what did the council do? They voted in favor of the residents. Now, those of you who don't know who lives in Tech Terrace, we have a former mayor that lives in Tech Terrace. We have professors. We have a lot of professionals. Okay. In my area, my grandmother did not have an education at all. My mother had a 3rd grade education, and she raised 8 children, 6 as a single parent. She did not have time to go to council meetings. My grandmother did not have time to go to council meetings to talk to these professionals who had their degrees, to let them know, about these facilities that were right in their backyard. But we now have that opportunity. And all I can say to the people of East Lubbock, North Lubbock, Mahon, Jackson, Arnett, Benson, Guadalupe is on August the 30th, drop whatever you're doing and get down to City Hall. Now, they may be there. I don't know what their agenda, if their agenda is strictly UDC. I do not know that. They have had a habit of, if there's anything else on the agenda, they will deal with that first and then deal with the big issue last. And a lot of people just leave. Don't leave. Stick around. They need to know that you guys are serious. And this is the one and only time that we have to be able to show them that we're going to get out there and we're going to be there in their faces, and they're not going to get rid of us. So people need to make sure that they write down August 30th, 2 o'clock, you be there, and you stay there for an hour, 2 hours, whatever it takes, you be there. Guadalupe has a lot of retired folks. Don't tell me you all cannot just one day out of the week, you cannot go down to City Hall. You don't have to say anything. We need bodies. We need you to show up. That's what we need from the residents of our neighborhoods.
Yeah, that's so beautifully expressed. And you're right, like the solidarity and the sense of community really makes a difference in this. And so if you can spare the moment, I would highly suggest it too. Adam, what can people do to help this effort?
I don't know if I could say any better than Dora just did.
Yeah, that was really powerful. I know that our organization will be writing a letter of support and sending it to the same recipients that this complaint went to. And from my perspective, I would encourage other organizations, any community members, any sort of groups that are connected to this, to also shoulder into this effort and compose their own letters of support. We'll be posting ours once it's up. And, we definitely want to shoulder into that effort.
If
Adam,
folks are interested in writing those letters, which is extremely helpful, and we're extremely grateful for that, we can make ourselves available to answer any questions or provide any resources to, if you have questions about the issue, if you need more information about the complaint or the history, or we have all sorts of footnotes in that complaint, citing all these different sources. If you need any of those sources or anything we can do to help with that process, just let me know.
Yep. Adam Hernandez, anything that you want, a call to action you want to place here?
I will just echo the call to action for everybody to go down to Citizens Tower. It's going to be on Wednesday, August the 30th. That's going to be at 2 p.m. I know it's the middle of the day, but make your plans now. That's 21 days from now. So you've got a little time. Make the plans. And I'll explain why this is so important, as we've done many times. I just want to remind everyone, as many times as I can, that these are those moments when you can get involved. These are those moments when you can affect change in your community. When a lot of folks, especially adults, essentially, go on about their regular lives, don't ever kind of worry about these kind of things. I get it. But at the same time, if you're an adult, how much better would our communities be if we took it as a sense of duty to our community to get involved with these things? Because you take care of your house, you make sure your house is secure, clean, everything's there for your kids that they need. That extends out to your community. It doesn't do us much good if we're doing that inside the home, but our community is dealing with these things at large, because it still slows us down. It slows down progress. When you sit out, you're essentially leaving whoever shows up to the field to play the game. And I don't even like to call it a game, because it's really not a game. This is real life. I'll use the word compete. And when people say, oh, they're all the same, or they all do this and that, well, that's because they're the ones showing up. If the people with the community's best interests at heart show up, then they now have competition. But just because the competition shows up and is sitting on the side of the field, that doesn't mean anything either. We need to get in there and compete on a consistent basis. Because I can tell you right now, the reason why that 1923 ordinance exists and that 1940 land use plan existed is because people of color could not vote, and they could be killed or beaten or lives ruined if they chose to get involved in a political process or go vote. I sometimes wonder, how do those people feel, all of those bigots and racists that did that beat all those people, that killed all those people, that were so worried about all those people going and being part of the political process? How would they feel if they were to know that all they had to do was give us the full rights as communities of color? We have full rights to get involved. We got full rights to run for an office. We got full rights to vote, and we just keep ourselves out of it. How would they feel to know that? I think it's a shame. And so my call to action is not only at this time, but especially at this time, because this is the most immediate thing now. People are constantly asking me, how do I get involved? We tell you these things so that you can. So I'm telling you now, anybody that has asked me in the past week, because I've got several in the past week, this is how you can get involved. You don't have to live in the neighborhood that is affected to go and sit and be in solidarity. I myself am from East Lubbock. I've sat at Tech Terrace for their fight. I've sat with Dupree during their fight. I've sat with all sorts of communities all over, including communities from South and West Lubbock. And so if we can do that, and I've seen Dora do that, I've seen Adam do that, I've seen Josh do that, I've seen many others do that. If we can do that, you can too. You don't have to speak. You don't have to be ready for all that. All you got to be ready for is to go and sit in a chair. There's AC, it's comfortable. Sit there for a couple of hours in solidarity and let Dora and others of us do the talking and just be there in solidarity. This is how you start it. And then we have to consistently stay engaged. But that's a thing for a different day. So that's my call to action. Show up, please, on behalf of these communities, and help us show the council on August 30th that the city cares about this and the city wants change in this direction, so that we don't have to lose federal funding, or we don't have to deal with any other sort of negative fallouts from this complaint. That's really all I got. If y'all want to let anybody know anything before we hop off, I think we're good.
I just want to thank y'all so much for not only the support here, but I started coming to Lubbock in 2017, and y'all really taught me what it means to be a citizen and to do the work of making government work and taking the time away from your family and your friends and everything to just so much sacrifice has gone into this effort and so many other efforts that I know y'all have all been involved in. And it just really made me proud to be, associated with y'all and to be part of this country, because and the sad thing is that all of the work that y'all are doing, if y'all were rich and white, and had the money and lived in Tech Terrace, it'd be done. That's the sad thing about all this, but it's changing, and I can feel the energy and I can see all the people getting involved, and I just have so much hope about getting this done. And there's so many just wonderful people working on this, and I just have to say that I'm thankful and proud to know y'all. So appreciate it.
Well,
Thank you.
And I also want to say thank you to you guys for having us on your program. I also want to extend a thank you to Adam Pirtle because of all of the hard work that he has done and his staff have done. They've done so much behind the scenes. You guys wouldn't know how much time he's put in, and I'm just appreciative of all the work that he's done for North and East Lubbock Coalition. Thank you, Adam.
it's so well and truly said, but hush up, babies, we know it. No, so much mutual admiration here. Like so many of our guests, our organization, our city, its people owe you two such a debt of gratitude. We've all been pulling rope together, and there's nobody else I'd rather be in that work with than the two of you, my co-host, and everybody else that contributes to all of our work. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, check, no more comments or anything. Yeah, that's our show for today, folks. I think we pretty much said it all. Please share this video far and wide. Show up on August 30th at Citizens Tower, 2 p.m. And we will see you right back here next time. We do have a special guest for you next show, so stick around with us and we'll see you at that time.
Thanks,
Good night,
a bunch.
everybody.
Thank you, guys.